East Africa has the potential to become one of the world's fastest growing economies. Now, to sustain this, infrastructure and government regulations need to support that growth trajectory. And CNBC's Laban Cliff Onserio caught up with Jay Ireland, CEO of General Electric Africa, for a look at the region's business prospects.
I think the economic potential for East Africa is pretty huge. As you said, you've got a number of finds which are exciting from a standpoint of what they can bring to the region. But I think the other piece, more importantly, is there's a broad-based economy that's already in place, so it's not dependent on resource economics such as gas, oil, etc. So I think there's a real aspect there that you're going to see a continuing growth in the economies. You've got a tremendous, ICT sector here in Kenya. You've got a number of growth initiatives going on in Ethiopia as well as in Tanzania and Rwanda. So I think there's a lot of potential across a number of different industries and across a number of different areas.
Now, how does the region ensure that this does not turn into the curse of the Black Gold?
There's many lessons learned, good and bad, from what's been done in the continent of Africa as well as South America and in Asia. So I think if the governments, as they put together their regulatory regime around oil and gas industries and mineral industries for that matter, they'll be able to really learn and hopefully put in the best practices and learn from others. And I think, it's a question of dependence on each one of the economies, but I think overall it's going to be very helpful.
Of course, this being a mineral-rich region, infrastructure plays a critical role in enhancing interconnectivity. However, East Africa's infrastructure still remains a hurdle. How can this be addressed?
If we don't get that corrected, you're going to see economic growth slow down because you can't afford to take a number of weeks to get stuff shipped from the port of Mombasa and inland. You can't wait 3 weeks for a factory shipment to go out. You've got a tremendous amount of power needs, so there are not going to be any high-tech factories if there's not a consistent and very secure level of power being supplied. So I think overall, those are really the key things that have to be addressed. In addition to that, you've got healthcare, transportation, logistics. All of that has to grow along with the rest of the economy. But if we don't get the infrastructure stuff fixed, it's going to be hard to continue this great growth that we're seeing in the East African region and in Kenya.
You have a vibrant GE transportation business. Are you looking to use this to address the challenge for infrastructure?
We're looking at transportation, which is our locomotive and signaling business. We're looking at working with Rift Valley Railroad, kind of under the Kenya MOU agreement that we signed earlier this year. And it's a cross of improving the capability of the railroad through locomotive servicing, as well as new locomotives, and then also a continuation of that agreement as we go forward. So our goal is to, you have maybe 5% of the shipments that go through the port of Mombasa go by train. It ought to be a lot more than that. And the roads are terribly jammed, and that takes a toll on the economy as well.
Recently, the U.S. government signed a deal with the East African heads of states for a commercial dialogue. Being the largest U.S. conglomerate, do you see this as enhancing the ease of doing business in the region?
One of the reasons that we're excited about Kenya and East Africa is because of this East African community. The regional integration is absolutely critical for every region in Africa. It's not just East Africa. And the reason is because there are a number of countries that would have a hard time without the regional integration. And it should be a two-way street where many smaller countries can benefit from large and vice versa, where the large can benefit from the smaller ones. Some are landlocked, so they don't have access to ports, et cetera. So there's a number of things of regional integration that can really be helpful to all the countries. The goal is to have all the economies grow, and then everything else will. So the East African, which is I think the U.S. government's view, has been well established. There's a number of treaties that have been already put in place, and now the really goal is to get them to be executed and to really operate as a really regional zone, if you will.
You're on Open Exchange. That was Jay Ireland, CEO of General Electric in Africa.